Welcome to episode 33 of Ralph's Stuff. Tonight we have a late evening camera mount test drive. We have windy trees. A roof crane does its thing. And finally a cartoon from 1946, The Talking Magpies. I think you'll find that one a bit amusing. So here we go. It's on with the show. Hi, it's Ralph Roberts. Welcome again to Ralph's Stuff, which is on every Tuesday at 8:30 here on Channel 20, URTV in Asheville, North Carolina, the land of the sky. I also have two other TV programs weekly on Channel 20. 6 o'clock on Saturdays, 6 p.m. on Saturdays is Rapid Ralph Runs the Roads, where we travel all over Western North Carolina for you. Going places you wouldn't want to go, so you don't have to go there, and also places where you'll want to go once you see them. So I hope you watch that and enjoy it. Also on Saturday at 8 p.m. is Tex Ralph's Westerns, and where we have rousing Western adventures from movies filmed in the 1930s and 40s. Some good stuff. They don't make them like that anymore, unfortunately. So, thanks for dropping in. We always enjoy your visit. Glad you could make it. My most popular show here on URTV is Rapid Ralph Runs the Roads, which is on every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. on Channel 20 here in Asheville, North Carolina, the land of the sky. The concept of the show is pretty simple. When I go out on a business trip to Cashiers or Cherokee or Burnsville, Spruce Pine, McDowell County, anywhere in western North Carolina, we cover 19 counties in this end of the state, I mount a camera in the car and film the trip. It's simply the road, as seen from the driver's view, just like we're showing here. And when I get home, I load it into my editing system, compose some background music for it, add some comments, both informative and entertaining, and that's the show. And people like it. It's an hour show. Again, Saturdays at 6 here on URTV. However, I'm constantly trying to improve it, and one way is by improving the way I mount the camera in the car. When I originally started, I had this huge industrial-sized suction cup that went on the right side passenger window, and it did pretty good, but the field of view was somewhat limited and a bit skewed because it was on the other side of the car from me. The angle was slanted. Then I found a mount that attached to the headrests on both seats and made a bar across between the seats where I could mount the camera, and that worked reasonably well, but it was a lot more susceptible to vibrations. When I'd hit a bump on the car, the picture would go wild, and just didn't work quite with the quality that I wanted to have. So this trip I had to run into Asheville to one of the Feist package service places, and I decided on this trip to try out the third mount I bought, third car mount. They're relatively cheap, and this one also mounts on the back of the seat on the headrest supports, but only on one side. So it ties in better to the harmonics of the way the car vibrates and gives you a smoother picture, as you're seeing here. And of course, we started this trip leaving my home out in Alexander, and we're going through the West Buncombe section. This is Old Number 20 we're on now, name of the road, and we're coming to the junction of Old Number 20 and the Old Lester Highway. As I go across, the name of the road changes to Mount Carmel, and Mount Carmel runs into the New Lester Highway. Highway 63, which is the way we normally go into Asheville. It's one of the fastest routes. We can get into Asheville in about 10 minutes from my home in Alexander, depending on traffic and so forth. And as we go up the hill here, and by the way, it's late in the evening, it's after 6, so it's a little dark, but it's when I decided to test the camera. And of course, whenever I film a significant number of minutes, I tend to use it in Raf Stuff here. That's Mount Carmel Baptist Church, where we belong. I tend to use it in Raf Stuff because, hey, that's what Raf Stuff's for. You just stuff stuff into it. And the trip did turn out well. I was pleased with the car mount. And in fact, I've since used it for a complete Rapid Raf Runs the Road episode, number 13, which will be on either this week or next. I forget where I am in the series, how many I've turned in. I like the view you get from mounting the camera on the driver's seat. So more realistic. And by adding a wide angle lens to the camera as I have, I get a pretty good view of most of the windshield, plus Karen, my GPS unit over on the right, who's co-star of this show, along with the Lieutenant Colonel, the four-wheel drive SUV that we're riding in, and my hands on the steering wheel, which gives us a little realism as I twist and turn over these mountain roads in western North Carolina. So it does pretty well. We're coming up now to Highway 63, the New Lester Highway. As we stop at the red light, lots of condos being built up on the hill there, as is happening all over our mountainous area. Dum da dum da dum. We wait for the red light. We wait for it to change, and eventually it will. There we go. And we're under green and moving again out into the 4-lane, or in this particular place, the 5-lane of the New Lester Highway. We're right at 3 miles from Patton Avenue here. Patton Avenue West, out across the Smoky Mountain Bridge from downtown Asheville. Although downtown Asheville is becoming wider and wider as the urban sprawl sprawls out. In fact, right up here, just past this red light, is the ETJ, the extraterritorial jurisdiction line of Asheville, which means the city limits just 1 mile from here. The extraterritorial jurisdiction is where Asheville pretty well and we think unfairly puts people in the city without giving them the city services. It's sort of a buffer zone between the city and the county. City of Asheville, of course, wants to annex farther west, and those of us out here in the county are fighting against it through various ways to stop the greed of Asheville's to stop the greed of Asheville's politicians who want to annex more and more and keep increasing the tax base. And that's my opinion, and no, we do not like Asheville. If we wanted to double our property taxes, we would do it on our own. So, but that's something that's going on around all metropolitan areas in North Carolina with the involuntary annexation laws, which is essentially taxation without representation. I seem to remember there was a revolution fought over that particular thing only a couple hundred years ago. So hopefully they are trying to, in Raleigh, get rid of the involuntary annexation that gives the municipalities in North Carolina such unreasonable power. So let's hope they manage to do that. A few drops of rain falling on the windshield, but not much. And we continue on out the New Leicester Highway. That's the correct pronunciation, by the way. It's pronounced Leicester, just like Leicester in England. So don't say Leicester or Leicester. It marks you as an outsider, and people will know you're not from these parts, which sometimes can be a big disadvantage. Okay, here we go. That blue building over on the right used to be what we called a freezer locker. You could bring your cow in or your pig live, and they'd shoot it for you and convert it into hamburger and steaks or pork chops and bacon, depending on what type of animal it was. And the reason, and put it in little lockers where you had a locker with your number on it, and you could go pick up whatever you needed for Sunday dinner that way. That was back in the days before home freezers became so abundant, and we used it quite a bit when I was young, back in the 50s and 60s, and worked out quite well. Now, as far as I know, there are no freezer lockers, and of course the stockyard's gone, and that was down on the river, and the packing company has moved away, and I really don't know if you raised a cow where you'd take it to get it slaughtered and butchered. I guess you just gotta go to the supermarket and buy their much worse beef. We knew the beef when we always raised a cow to eat ourselves, and it was good fresh beef, and you knew where it came from and how it was raised, and just felt a lot better about it. But times, they have changed. We're sitting at the red light here waiting to get onto Patton Avenue West, which is becoming one of the main drags of Asheville. You got Patton Avenue on the west, and Hendersonville Road on the south, and Tunnel Road on the east, and of course Merriman on the north. Those are the main drags. And usually totally jammed with traffic these days. They all need more lanes. Of course, Patton Avenue is also Highway 19, and you can see the signs there, and 23, which is used to be at least a major north-south highway. And that, of course, being before the advent of the interstate highway system, where its functions have pretty well been replaced by I-40 and I-26. And as we go along, Patton Avenue in towards Asheville, and we'll soon be able to see the skyline of downtown Asheville, such as it is. Way up there in the distance. We'll get a little closer. On this particular trip, I don't go across the bridge into downtown Asheville. I try to avoid that whenever possible. And of course, the highest building in downtown Asheville now is what I like to call the Northwest Bank Building, because that was the name of it when it was built some 40 years ago. Now that particular bank is out of business, or merged with another bank, and some other bank has its name on the top of the building. That's way in the distance. You could see it there. And I'm in favor of more tall buildings being built downtown. I know that's a controversial statement, but I don't think Asheville will really grow properly until they have more buildings downtown, and it should grow up instead of out. We do not want you coming into our front yard, please. Okay, now, as we end as I turn into the package place there, and we begin our next segment, Windy Trees. Now, I recently bought a new tripod for my camera and wanted to try it out, and it was a beautiful summer's day with a nice breeze blowing. So I sat up under the tree in the shade in front of my house. That's my house there out in Alexander. And I became interested in watching the play of shadows from the trees on the grass and the way the wind was moving the limbs around. It was pretty neat, as you can see. So it was a good test of the new tripod. That's a maple tree in the foreground and also the background as well across the yard. That's my apple tree. I was afraid that since it started blooming during the late freezes we had a month or so ago, they wouldn't have any apples this year. But just the other day I noticed some small apples growing on the trees, so we'll have some, and they're good in the fall. More maple trees out towards the road, and you can see my barns down in the distance. I live on the old family farm I grew up on. The building, closer building, the white building, is my production offices where I'm actually editing this show as we speak. And back to the house. The big bush there behind the maple tree is an old boxwood that's about 75 years old. And the tree to the right is a walnut tree. And you can also see my rhododendron bush right in front of the house. This was shot from the side of the production building, looking down towards yet another of my barns. Big old maple tree in the center. Maple trees tend to grow big and put out a lot of shade. We like maple trees. That's a smaller maple tree, and there's also one just to the left of the photograph of this. There we go, just to the left there. So those are younger trees that we planted recently. Now this is also just up above the house on the hill. And again, I was playing with the tripod and pushing the telephoto lens out on the camera pretty far, and looking at a house under construction up on the hill above my house. And they've got a big crane there, and they're in the process of putting up the roof truss where they can then tie those together and actually put the roof itself on. So I thought it'd be interesting watching the operation, but it was sort of boring because those beautiful clouds. It was sort of boring because they'd lift up one of the truss and then they'd take a long time fussing around getting it exactly right, and I suppose nailing it in place or however they attach it. So, but I kept waiting until the crane started up, and in just a minute we'll see it in actual operation. And actually I had to cut away from it several times, and you can see one guy over there on the right working on it. This is with the telephoto lens on all the way out as far as it'll go on this particular camera. That gives you an idea of how far away I actually was from the house. And here we zoom back in closer. And we're still waiting on the crane. There's a guy on the left in red, and he's looking, and he says, "Yep, it looks pretty straight to me." And now I cut the camera back on. We got the guy in the white shirt there, and he's ready to do some directing, I hope. They're still moving that one around a little. And it's still attached to the crane. I find construction work fascinating. all the elements that have to come together to get a building built, all the equipment you need, from small nailing machines up to the huge cranes like this one. Of course, we can only see the arm of the crane. Here we go. Now they're getting ready to pick up another truss and bring it up, and they'll swing it around. There's our friend in red again, and he's hooked it to the truss, and they're lifting it up. So all those trusses, of course, now come pre-assembled, and they're custom made for each house. Sometimes that one's obviously the roof has a sharper pitch on one side than on the other side. So it was probably custom made for the house for this particular job. And the crane driver brings it right around where they can pull it into place. And it's pretty neat. Or so I think. All the elements coming together to result in a home where people can live for many years to come. Light changed suddenly there, and my camera adjusted for it. That cable in the top of the picture, by the way, is actually the cable TV cable. It's a lot closer to me than the house is, but the telephoto lens magnifies it, makes it look like it's real close to the house when it's really 200 or 300 yards down the hill from it. Now, URTV signal is on that particular cable, and lots of other good stuff. Okay, this is sort of like watching grass grow. These guys are being a bit slow and careful. However, if they were building my house, I think I'd want them to do that also. Make sure that everything goes in the right place. And obviously they're having a little bit of trouble getting this particular roof truss in the right place. But they did eventually. In fact, the entire roof is now on the house, and they're making progress, which is what builders should be doing and usually do. As we pull back out from it, just to again show you how far away we are. And now let's look at a cartoon from 1946.
Good afternoon. Oh, so you're looking for a place to live. Well, look no further, friend. Look no further. Whoo, I got just a little place for you. Just for a little place for you and your woman. Oh, way up there, way up there. Oh, thank you. You made a good buy. Peachy buy. Whoo, you'll like it very much.
Now, just a minute. Now, after all, we've been through this thing before. Shut up.
Shut
up. I'm not going to pull up. But that's what... Now, wait a minute.
Say, fellas, the boss asked me to ask you if you'd mind being a little more quiet. trying to sleep.
Well, what did they say?
They said if you'd mind your business, they'd mind theirs.
They're talking about all you ever do is walk. Guys, straight up!
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. Let's go to press. Flash. Do you have a magpie in your home? If you do, you are most fortunate. The magpie is the most charming bird in all the world. He is the best friend the farmer ever had. Treat him gently. Treat him kindly. And always remember, the magpie deserves your respect.
Hello, everybody. Yes, sir, I've just a little article you need, guaranteed to cure all headaches. Now I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I ain't got no headache. Oh, yes, you have, brother. Who knows what will happen next? The shadow knows. Well, well, well. If it ain't the little flower. That was fun. Let's try it again.
Maggie, my dear, would you mind asking those uncouth neighbors to be a little more quiet?
Go to ralphwroberts.com to see this show again.